So how do we identify and handle a subject who is in denial? And it's not the river in Egypt. Stay tuned for tip number 57. Welcome back to 101 Tips for Interviewing and Interrogation. I'm your host, Stan Walters, and we're at tip number 57. And this time we are talking about another one of reaction response behaviors of denial. In this case, it is a reaction behavior that stops progress toward solution, toward conversation, toward compliance on the part of your subject. Okay? This is more of an intellectual behavior, and so it's a thinking process. Now, a couple of things before we talk about this. This does not mean your subject cannot tell you no. It's more complex than that. It's more active, it's more deliberate. In denial, and it makes sense, your subject is rejecting reality. So the information that you've presented, the argument you presented, the evidence that you've demonstrated, they are going to reject that. But what will happen is they're going to engage in some type of cognitive manipulation. They're going to manipulate the information and try to manipulate your conclusions, manipulate your decision about the evidence. Now, be sure again, remember that we don't lie about evidence, because we talked a little bit earlier about influence and compliance tactics. That lying is a very bad tactic, and it'll cause you to lose your leverage and lose your the subject's respect for you, that you're going to be honest and open with them, and then you lose that position, you lose that bargaining power. So don't lie to the subject. But in the denial, subject's working hard to explain away, talk away the evidence that appears to be piled against them. The different types of denial that you'll have, different examples of it. Remember, we want to see two things. We want to see a consistent reaction to specific topic areas. Remember that. So each time, for example, you would bring up polygraph or bring up the money in the car, etc., or the heroin use, they keep showing hot sensitivity, and they'll use denial at those topics. So remember, we're looking for the topic. It's not so much the questions, but the questions and topics that you've picked. Okay? So, and the other thing is it has to be clusters. Grouping of symptoms. One symptom is inconclusive. You cannot make a reliable an evaluation or assessment on credibility just on a single cue or on one single occurrence. So you need to see it consistent and a grouping of two or more. Verbal and verbal, nonverbal, and a mix of verbal, nonverbal. All right? So the denial behaviors. Good one is convenient memory lapses. Don't say to the subject, could you have forgotten, that's why you did it, or you've been drinking. Okay, we don't use that. Look for gaps in time when you do a narrative interview. Go back and look at our time cop episode back further and look at how we talked about tactics used as the time cop, how we deal with time. But they will skip blocks of time. All of a sudden, after a while, the next thing I knew, lo and behold, before too long, and you see them skipping 1-2 hour segments, if you will. Okay. The typical targets, by the way, the research has found that subjects will deny have to do with time, people, and places. Those are the primary strategies they will use. All right? So look for those gaps in times, or what we call a time bridge. You may see, don't forget clusters, what we call flag expressions. Trust me, believe me, to tell the truth. Why would I lie? To be totally honest with you. What I'm telling you is the truth. To be totally open, 100% honest. Looking for that, again, consistency within a specific topic area. Or disqualifiers, basically, or modifiers, most of the time, hardly ever. Wasn't actually right there. Essentially, the use of words but and however. And you're going to believe this, but. It may sound strange, however, I had used his password in terminal and username before. Okay? Look for what we call surgical denial. I wasn't exactly right there. I have been truthful about everything I have said to the public. So they'll pick, I wasn't right here when the fire started. I didn't take the $5,041.10. And so they'll argue with a single word, the meaning of a word, or the interpretation of a word or a phrase. And they'll keep using that word, phrase on you. Okay, you follow that? Okay. Talked about the basically, essentially, most of the time, hardly ever. Wasn't actually standing right there. Okay, those are the markers that the subject is now trying to diminish or attack your logical conclusion. And so when they win that battle with you, so this is a battle of manipulation. If we recall, manipulation is where the person is playing totally to their advantage, where influence is an equal opportunity, equal balance, with both parties can respond, both parties can talk. Okay? Look for, by the way, incidentally, one more thing, and they'll bring up something that they think that you would expect them to avoid, something that you would expect them not to talk about. Because if I bring it up first, that's going to show that I'm not worried about that evidence. I'm not afraid of that. Okay, they're going to tell you that about the evidence has been manufactured, the evidence is incorrect, and so it's an attempt to manipulate. So my job then as the interviewer, okay, take a look at the other elements, and we'll talk about denial, and you'll pick it up in class. We got more cues of denial that at that time we've got to be able to go through and work with here. Okay. But what we'll do as the interviewer is we'll create the problem, agitate, solution process. Go back and look at using a little PASS segment we did in a previous video. You can say, yeah, but the problem with what you're saying is you said that there was not, never did, and so forth, the next question, but this is the statement we have, this is the forensics we have, this is the lab report we have, this is the cell phone log we have. You will confront denial with elements of reality. Not made up, remember that. So remember, reaction is to stop, halt, divert, or delay motion toward solution. Response, which we'll cover a little bit later, response is when we make that move and their comments let you know that they're ready now to move toward solution to solving the problem and to put everything behind them. So listen for those denial elements of those key words and key phrases that tell you that they are trying to persuade you to ignore the evidentiary and logic conclusion you've come to. Be sure to hit like below, and please, if you would, share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Connect with me at LinkedIn and the other social media networks. Look for more webinars and courses. Be sure to register if you haven't. Subscribe to the page and look at our resources we got on our website for on-demand courses, textbook, pocket guides that will add. Remember, you want to improve your skills. What did you do today to make you better than you were yesterday? This is Stan Walters. Great to be with you. Be safe. See me again when we come back next week with tip number 58. Take care.